At first glance, this looks like nothing more than an old Nintendo Wii, but hidden inside is a powerful 8-core gaming PC. It can play modern PC games and emulate countless classic consoles, all while keeping the original Wii look. To make it all fit, I had to build an ultra-low-profile CPU cooler from scratch. I even reused the original power button to turn the whole system on, just like a real Wii. I'm really excited to show you how I pulled this off, the challenges along the way, and just how powerful this tiny machine really is. Let's get started. It all started with this broken Nintendo Wii that I bought on eBay for just $10. If I remember correctly, I picked it up about 3 months before I even came up with the idea for this project. Funny enough, it ended up sitting on my shelf the whole time, until now. According to the seller, the console had developed some kind of hardware fault and was no longer working. Unfortunately, they didn't include the power adapter, so I had no way to test whether it was actually dead. Cosmetically, though, it's in pretty decent shape. It's a little dirty, but there are no major cracks or deep scratches. So, let's take it apart. The first step is stripping the Wii down and removing everything inside. This was actually my first time opening one of these old consoles, and honestly, there's no way I would have figured it out without YouTube. Nintendo did an impressive job hiding the screws under rubber feet and plastic covers. Without a teardown guide, I probably would have spent hours just trying to find them all. About 30 minutes later, I finally had everything apart, including the motherboard and the internal metal shielding. To my surprise, the inside was remarkably clean, with no obvious signs of corrosion or physical damage. So I'm definitely hanging on to the original motherboard. Maybe one day I'll repair it and turn it into an ultra-slim custom Wii, but that's a project for another day. Right now, all I need is the shell. It's going to become the foundation of this build. As you can see, the Wii is incredibly compact. It's so small that even a mini ITX motherboard won't fit inside. An STX motherboard is much closer in size, but the stock CPU cooler is simply too tall for the case. At first, I considered using one of those tiny mini PCs instead. The motherboard is unbelievably small and fits inside the Wii with room to spare. It doesn't even need an active CPU cooler. The problem is, the hardware is just too weak for the kind of gaming experience I want. More powerful mini PCs exist, but they're far outside my budget, so I decided to stick with the STX motherboard after all. The plan is simple. Keep the motherboard, but replace the stock cooler with a much lower profile one that can actually fit inside the Wii. Let me quickly go over the specs of this little PC. At the heart of the system is a Ryzen 7 7500G with 8 cores and 16 threads. It also comes with Vega 8 integrated graphics, which delivers performance roughly in the same ballpark as a GT 1032GB. Alongside that, I've got 16 gigabytes of RAM, which should be more than enough for what I have planned. And for storage, I'm going with an M2 NVMe SSD. Not only is it fast, but more importantly, for a build this compact, it takes up virtually no extra space and doesn't require any additional cables. So the first thing I need to do is remove the original cooler and figure out how to mount the board inside the case. The first thing I needed to figure out was where the motherboard would sit. My plan was to line up the motherboard's rear I/O ports with the original openings on the back of the Wii, so the finished build would look as clean and factory-like as possible. Once I was happy with the layout, I marked the plastic support posts that needed to stay and sketched out the section of the rear panel that would need to be cut away for the motherboard's I/O shield. Then it was time to start cutting. Using a handheld rotary tool, I removed all of the plastic posts that were in the way. That gave me just enough room to fit the motherboard inside the case. And thankfully, it fit almost perfectly. With the motherboard position finalized, I moved on to modifying the upper rear section of the shell to make room for the I/O ports. While I was working on it, I came up with another idea. Instead of leaving the opening exposed, I want to design a custom I/O shield made specifically for this motherboard. It should make the finished build look much cleaner and more professional. After finishing all the rough cuts, I switched to a few smaller hand tools to clean up the edges. Finally, I sanded everything smooth, so the cuts looked much more like they came from the factory. At this point, I finally had enough space to start installing the hardware. The first thing I needed to do was mount the motherboard securely inside the case. I carefully marked the mounting holes, drilled them, and installed a set of 5mm motherboard standoffs. On the underside of the case, I countersunk the holes slightly so the screw heads would sit flush instead of sticking out from the bottom. With the standoff securely in place, I could finally mount the motherboard. Once everything was screwed down, I took a closer look at the rear I/O area. As you can see, there was still a pretty large gap around the ports. Not only did it look unfinished, but it would also leave the inside of the PC exposed to dust, and even small insects, which is the last thing you want around electronics. So I decided to make a custom I/O shield specifically for this build. For the material, I chose a sheet of PVC plastic. I carefully measured the opening, transferred my template, and cut the panel to match the shape of the rear I/O. Honestly, this is one of those moments where I really wish I owned a 3D printer. It would have made this part much easier and given me a much cleaner, more professional-looking result. Once I was happy with the fit, I sanded the edges smooth and finished it with a coat of matte black paint so it would blend seamlessly with the rest of the Wii's exterior. With that done, I installed the rest of the hardware and finally secured the motherboard in place. But at this point, I was far from finished. The next challenge, and probably one of the biggest in this entire build, was figuring out how to cool the CPU. As you already know, the original CPU cooler is simply too tall to fit inside the Wii, so if I wanted this case to close properly, I would have to build my own ultra-low profile cooling solution. The first thing I needed was a heatsink. And not just any heatsink, it had to be extremely thin. I went through pretty much every heatsink I had lying around, hoping I'd find something that would work. Unfortunately, none of them were even close. Then I noticed something that gave me a pretty crazy idea. An old GPU heatsink. I'd never even considered using a graphics card heatsink to cool a desktop CPU before. I had no idea if it would actually work, but at this point, it was pretty much my only option. So I grabbed a heatsink from a dead graphics card and started taking it apart. Almost immediately, though, I ran into another problem. The heatsink was way too large. Some of the outer fins were hitting components around the CPU socket, preventing the heatsink from sitting flat against the processor. So, time to start cutting. I trimmed away the sections that were getting in the way. I wasn't removing a huge amount of material, so hopefully the impact on cooling performance would be minimal. After a little more cutting and test fitting, perfect. The heatsink finally sat flat on top of the CPU. But now I had another problem. There was absolutely no way to attach it using the motherboard's original mounting hardware. The heatsink and mounting bracket were never designed to work together, so none of the screw holes lined up. My first solution was zip ties. Yeah, not exactly professional, and unsurprisingly, it wasn't secure enough. Even worse, if the heatsink got hot enough, those plastic zip ties could soften or potentially melt. So I needed something much stronger. That's when I decided to make my own mounting bracket out of steel strips. Luckily, I already had two metal CPU cooler mounting brackets lying around, and they fit this heatsink surprisingly well. Once both pieces were ready, I ran bolts through the holes and secured them through the motherboard's original CPU cooler mounting points. And this is much better. The heatsink is now pressed firmly against the CPU, and the steel brackets are incredibly rigid. The next challenge was just as tricky, finding a cooling fan that was thin enough to fit inside the Wii. Luckily, I still had the original fan that came with the GPU heatsink. It's incredibly slim, which makes it perfect for this build. Even with the case closed, there's still enough clearance for the fan to spin freely without touching the shell. Now, I just have to hope it's powerful enough to keep the CPU cool, and doesn't turn this tiny PC into an oven. With that figured out, I'd finally solved most of the hardest problems in this build. The next step was getting the original Wii power button to turn on the PC inside. And just like I've done in some of my previous projects, the solution was actually pretty simple. I mounted a small momentary switch directly behind the Wii's original power button, carefully positioning it so that pressing the button from the outside would activate the switch inside. That way, I can keep the original look and feel of the Wii while using its factory power button to turn on an entirely different computer. Alright, let's give it a quick test before putting everything back together. Perfect! It works! Now, there's just one final detail I want to take care of. On the front of the Wii, there's this large opening where the original disk drive used to be. And looking at it, I realized it's actually the perfect size for a couple of USB ports. So instead of letting that space go to waste, I decided to mount a USB hub directly behind the original disk slot. This gives me easy access to USB right from the front of the system, making it much more convenient to plug in things like a keyboard, mouse, flash drive, or game controller. And more importantly, I'm able to add that functionality without changing the Wii's exterior too much. With that done, there's really nothing left to build. It's finally time to put everything back together and find out whether this Wii gaming PC actually works as well as I hoped. And here it is, the final result. From the outside, it still looks almost exactly like the original Nintendo Wii, but inside, it's an entirely different story. Alright, enough talking. Let's power it on. Perfect. We have a display, and the system booted up immediately without any issues. But there is one thing I'm a little concerned about. Even while sitting idle, the CPU temperature is already hovering around 70 degrees Celsius. That's pretty warm. But what happens when I actually start gaming? Let's fire up Minecraft and find out. And take a guess at the temperature. Yep, 96 degrees Celsius. And no, that's not a monitoring error. The CPU is actually running that hot. At this temperature, I did notice a little bit of thermal throttling, with the CPU occasionally dropping its clock speed to keep itself under control. Surprisingly though, it wasn't enough to ruin the experience. Minecraft still runs incredibly smoothly, and during actual gameplay, I barely noticed any performance issues at all. So the PC works, but clearly the cooling system still has some room for improvement. Admittedly, this upgrade isn't exactly practical, but it was a pretty interesting experience. I could easily install a lower performance CPU to keep temperatures down. What do you think of this build? Let me know in the comments.